We are at our field trip site this year. We have a field trip every year with a 7th grade class out of Heritage Middle School. And we come out and we like to be able to bring them out to a real study site that real Idaho scientists are participating in to show them that they can be right next to science happening and they can be involved in it themselves. When we ask students at the beginning of this experience, describe a scientist to me, it is Bill Nye the Science Guy, crazy white hair in a lab coat and mixing things in beakers. And by the end of this experience, we ask them the same question and it becomes, anyone can be a scientist. I could be a scientist, because by having all these collaborators do different stations, what they realize is that scientists come in all shapes and forms, and I hope that when they come out, they can have some resonance and they can feel represented by the real scientists that are here showing them fun things, and they can feel like that's something that I could do too, and it's not just for geniuses or anything. So this year, the theme was different lenses. How can you look at the landscape in different ways? So the first station was an underground lens. We wanted to look at soil chemistry, soil biology, the biota in the soil, to talk about how then that influences vegetation. Then they go to the next station, which talks about herbivores and the relationship between herbivores and vegetation. So what type of vegetation it needs to be available for both our native Idaho wildlife, but also for livestock, because we're in open rangelands. Then they go from what eats the plants to what eats the things that eat the plants. And so then they go on to our wildlife station, where we talk both about prey, but also what eats the prey, and why we're in the Morley-Nelson Snake River Birds of Prey area is because of those birds of prey. Then we go on to the technology that we use to monitor all of these different aspects. And so we moved on to our GIS station, which had some remote sensing. And so they can kind of get that sense from the soil up to the raptors, and then how do we monitor it all.
7th graders are sort of at the stage that they're either gonna buy into thinking about our landscapes and sustainabilities and being those stewards, or they're not. And so I think they're sort of at a sponge. I mean, we looked at, we had a cow pie, and we talked about larvae in that cow pie and how they're food resources and how they're transforming from a larva into an insect. And these 7th graders are transforming into real adults that are going to have impacts on the decisions they make of these lands. So it's important to connect with them and teach them what we do and why these landscapes are important at an early age.
I love Idaho's landscapes. I think the sagebrush steppe desert is such an underrated ecosystem and such an underrated landscape. And it's one of those, if you're driving by too fast, you're gonna miss how beautiful it is. And I think that's why we have to bring the students out to actually get dirty and put their boots on the ground, because the beautiful diversity of this landscape happens at this level, not at the drive-by level. So I think understanding more about the complexity of the sagebrush steppe ecosystem is absolutely something that we can do out here on this field trip, and something that I really gravitated towards when I started as a seasonal field technician. But I just get to do it as my job now, because it's asking, I wonder why this does this, and I wonder if I could test this out. And that's all 7th graders are doing all the time. So I think it's actually a perfect inflection point in their education to grab onto that creativity and really start to hit people with STEM and say, this is something that you can do.